Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm here today with my co-host, Jerrika. We are two of the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, Jer.
Hey, Alex. What's new?
What's new? Really enjoying the weather. We're having a beautiful summer. Depending on when this episode is airing, I'm not sure. But we're having a beautiful summer, and we're trying to make the most of it. We just got back from a camping trip recently. And one thing we did on that camping trip, which we haven't done as a family yet, was we went canoeing, which was a lot of fun. I haven't done a ton of canoeing in my life. I've done a ton of camping and other water sports, but not canoeing. And it was kind of cool because it's a really easy family activity that you can get everybody involved. Devin and I did most of the paddling. Emerson did some of the paddling, and then we were able to even bring our puppy Gary. So it was pretty cool to just get out there and do a water sport as a family and choose how hard or easy you want to make it.
I love it. Yeah, canoeing's awesome. I'm more of a kayaker, but I've spent more time the last year with that adventure race I did. So I think I'm gonna take a break from canoeing for a while. That was tough.
Yeah, I've done a lot more kayaking also because it's better as an individual. But I really like how now Emerson, he's turning 6 this summer, is at the stage where he wouldn't really be able to handle a kayak well on his own, but a canoe he can add some value to the team, and you have the ability to really get out there. We did so we went camping at Arrowhead, and there's a little river system, and we went down the river system with the current, which was obviously very easy. And then on the way back, it was a grind paddling against the current. So it was kind of fun.
Cool. That's fun. Yeah, something different, totally different to you. Awesome.
Yeah. So that goes kind of hand in hand with my topic today. What I want to talk about is, and I think we covered this a little bit on a previous episode, but worth mentioning again, especially this time of year, is how to plan for travel from a nutrition standpoint specifically. We can touch a little bit on movement, but from a nutrition standpoint specifically, how to optimize your travel. Because I know it's something that a lot of people struggle with as soon as they're out of their own kitchen, their own routine, how to navigate their nutrition. Go on.
Cool. Is there a direction on type of travel? Are we going to be able to bring stuff with us, or are we hitting a plane?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can touch a little bit on both. I was thinking more like road trip, like local type road trips for shorter periods of time. Obviously, if you're crossing a border, you're limited on what you can bring. But I think people make this more complicated than it needs to be, because we get really set in our routines and our habits. I have a smoothie almost every day at home, but when I'm traveling, I'm not going to bring my blender and all my stuff for my smoothie. So now that smoothie's gone, it's easy to get into that, oh shoot, I'm screwed now. I can't make my smoothie. What am I going to do? Mindset, right?
Yep.
Any starting thoughts as we get rolling, or do you want me to take this?
Another question or starting thought would be, what are the goals? Is the goal to stay on track? Is the goal to minimize damages? What's the goal when we're thinking of this road trip packing?
That's a really great question. That's something that everybody needs to identify heading into their travel. So is this something that happens so infrequently that I can still make progress if I just enjoy myself during this trip? If so, I would normally just recommend enjoying yourself and finding a few ways during the trip to minimize the damage and not stressing about food. Obviously, packing a few healthy snacks and things like that would be a good way to minimize the damage and still be able to enjoy yourself. But if this is if you're not doing trips or traveling often and it's not holding you back from your goals, then it's probably not worth stressing over. On the other hand, is this something that happens so often that if you don't give it the space it deserves in your head, that you're going to lose progress, you're going to regress, you're not going to be able to get to your goals. So that's important for people to identify, because some people travel constantly, some people do it like once a year. If you're doing it once a year, it's really not going to make that big of a difference. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, no, exactly.
So let's say the person has identified that if they just say screw it, they're going to regress because they've got a lot planned over the next couple months, and they don't have the luxury of just minimizing the damage, because the next 2 months is a lot of different little trips and weekends and traveling and that kind of thing. Where would you start with this person to give them a really easy, simple, actionable advice?
When planning, I think one of the first things, or the most difficult things to get access to or to have on your vacation or road trip, is protein. So I think that would be one of the directions I would take first is how can I prep, or what can I bring in order for me to hit at least my protein goals.
Agreed. Protein, usually what's lacking in any whether or not you're going to restaurants really is going to be protein, well, and fruits and vegetables, but protein primarily. A lot of the like quick foods, if you're going camping, a lot of the quick foods are going to be like sausage on a bun, something like that, that's lower protein count, with like a potato salad that's going to be higher calorie, lower protein count. If we have the ability to supplement these meals with protein and still consume some of these meals, you're going to do really well. So this can come from, similar to the advice that I give to a lot of vegetarians, this can come from making sacrifices within the meal, or it can come from supplementing the meal with a protein from an outside source. And so I'll start with my vegetarian comparison. A lot of vegetarian foods are higher calorie because they get a lot of their proteins from beans, lentils, legumes. They're great sources of protein. They just come with a lot of extra proteins. So in knowing that we're getting our protein from these higher calorie foods, we don't have as many luxury calories to play with, because we're using some of our luxury calories to get our protein. The same thing applies now if you're going out camping, say, and you're having something like sausage on a bun. Sausage is really high calorie, still has a decent amount of protein in it, but it's high calorie. So now we're using our play calories to get our protein, right? So your option would be to have an extra sausage without a bun to get more protein in, but knowing that your calorie count's climbing quite a bit, we're not going to have as much wiggle room for the other snacks, the appetizers, the desserts, that kind of thing. So we might make a sacrifice on that end. Or on the flip side, you bring the protein, like Jerrika's talking about. You bring a protein powder, you bring a protein bar, you bring a beef jerky, or you cook chicken breasts in advance, put it on ice in a cooler, and you bring that, and you have a little bit of that with the meal, so that you have a really, really clean, high source of protein, and you can go into the rest of the meal kind of guilt-free. Go ahead.
And not just for when it comes to protein too, right? That's for your meals, but you mentioned a few of the snacks, right? Even when you're packing snacks, if we can check off the box for protein in our snacks, that could set us up for more success when it comes to these meals that we may not have control over, because we've already maybe bought the beef jerky, or we had the, little yogurt packs, or whatever we brought for our snacks on our road trip. Now we're okay once we get there. Normally we might not have that protein during our snack time.
Yeah. And I mentioned the cooler. I think the cooler becomes a no-brainer with something like a camping trip. You're like, well, I'm going to have coolers. So you can pre-plan things like cooking some chicken, hard boiling some eggs, getting some of those foods, putting them in the cooler and having them. The cooler can be such an advantageous tool for other things other than camping, for going away for a sports tournament for the weekend, for being in a hotel, to going to a friend's house, to just going on a road trip. Like, a cooler is an underutilized tool. It's bringing a fridge with you so that you don't have to buy all of your meals on the road. I think that's a really important thing to recognize with your traveling, that anytime we can control the variables by bringing the fridge with us, we have a way higher chance of success.
Absolutely. And we talked about protein first, but you also briefly mentioned how fruits and vegetables are typically either really expensive to buy on the road, at like corner stores and things in that nature, or just difficult to have access to. So that cooler, even for your kid's sporting event, although you're like, oh, of course I'm going to pack a cooler for my kid's sports team for their oranges and their watermelon. It's like, well, why can't I throw some pre-cut vegetables, some pre-cut veggies or fruit for myself? Right.
Yep. Yep. And so that leading into fruits and vegetables, that's the next thing I mentioned. So protein's usually what's lacking in travel. The next two being fruits and vegetables. Will make it this similar to the protein. You're going to pack fruits and vegetables, but pick ones that keep well and they're easy to consume. Like don't pack something that's going to spoil if it doesn't keep really cold, or like in a cooler, something like raspberries, if they're gonna get all wet and soggy, they're
Right.
gonna be disgusting within a day. Like choose things like apples that keep in any condition. Choose things like baby carrots or celery or cucumber or peppers that can handle being in less than ideal situations. You can cut them up, you can consume them really easily. We have to look at these kinds of things. Even like broccoli doesn't keep that well if it gets wet or if it gets hot. It needs to be kind of kept in an ideal situation. If you know you're going to a hotel that has a mini fridge, though, I love the bags of pre-chopped broccoli because that is going to keep very well in that situation. So looking at what we have available to us to keep the foods cold or as they need to be kept is an important factor when we make these decisions, rather than just I'll grab stuff out of the fridge before I leave and then the broccoli and the raspberries spoil because they're sitting in soggy cooler water.
Awesome.
Those are my biggest pieces of advice. So control the protein, fruits and vegetables, and then minimize the damage on the other stuff. So if I'm going into a meal and I know the meal's not in line with my goals, but I can consume a little bit of my pre-packed protein and veggies and fruits to make sure that I'm getting my protein goals, I'm getting a little bit full, then I can go into that meal kind of guilt-free. I can have 2 slices of pizza and it's not going to make or break me, rather than just being like, oh crap, tonight's pizza night, I'm going to eat 6 slices of pizza, I'm going to be way under on my protein count, way over on my calorie count, and now I'm even further from my goals. All I had to do was have a little bit of pre-packed protein, fruits and vegetables so that I don't come out of that meal starving, because there's nothing worse than going into that meal be like, oh, I'm only gonna have 2 pieces of pizza, and you're feeling bad the entire time how you are only allowed to have 2 pieces of pizza and everybody else has a whole bunch of pizza. And we can overcome that by supplementing it with some healthy packed food, and then sweet, I still get to have 2 pieces of pizza, I'm full, I feel content, and I hit my nutrition goals.
Awesome. Yeah, it just comes down to kind of thinking about where you're going, what you're doing, what you have access to, and then just planning some. We're not saying plan every breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
No.
right? It's just like planning, the things that are typically out of your control when you're in these events, like the protein, the veggies, and the fruit. If you can plan that, then the rest you'll enjoy yourself and not feel like you're lacking, and not feel that you're too restrictive on these events, just so that you get satisfied, you check the boxes, and then everything else would be in moderation, or we say minimize the damages.
Yeah, we talk with our clients mostly about trying to have 24 days a month in your goals, 6 days a month outside of your goals. So like if your trip falls in that range and you can have 3 or 4 days outside your goal, not really that big of a deal. But if we said like you're all month long is going to be a challenge, then you kind of have to pick and choose which of those days you're going to go outside your goals, which of those days you're going to make some sacrifice to hit your goals. And that's an important mindset going into these big get-togethers and trips with other people. If you're with other like-minded people on a similar journey, it becomes way easier. But if you're going on this trip and nobody else there is on the same journey as you, you need to remember that they aren't trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve, so they don't need to make the sacrifices that you need to make. And that's important, because you start to, well, why can they eat whatever they want? Why can they do whatever they want? You can too, but you are choosing to go a different path than them. And in order to go a different path than them, you have to make sacrifices that they're not willing to make or they don't want to make because it's not a top priority to them. So that's something we have to give some consideration to before traveling with other people, for sure.
And I think sometimes the word sacrifice to some people kind of is like depressing, but you can also look at it as an addition. It's like, well, yeah, my goals allow me to have an addition of protein or an addition of carbs and fat that maybe their meal or friend's meal doesn't necessarily have. So it's like, it's not that you're not eating what they're having. It's just you might be having less of and extra protein that you brought and maybe some extra fruits and vegetables.
It's the reason that we don't tell you can't do things. It doesn't feel good to say, I can't have this, I can't do this. When you're choosing to do something, it feels better. When you have the choice, I'm choosing to eat more protein, I'm adding protein. That feels better than saying I can't have that food. And it's not realistic for most people to eliminate foods, but it is realistic for most people to add healthy foods. And then just naturally that's going to stop you from eating as much of the other foods. So that's definitely important. So the last thing I'll add is when you're going on when you're traveling, when you're going on these trips for weekends or weeks, most of us thrive off of routine. Not everybody, but most of us thrive off routine. So trying to bring some of your routine with you is going to be really helpful here. If you're the type of person that wakes up every morning and you work out at 7 a.m., get up in the morning and go for a short walk at 7 a.m., right? Go for a short walk at 8 a.m. Like it doesn't need to be to a T, but in doing that, you are maintaining some of your normal routine, which is going to make you feel better, which is going to make you stick more to your plan. If you're just like, oh, screw it, I'm away from home, I can't work out, I can't eat well, it gets super easy to slip into the all or nothing mindset. So bringing small tidbits of that routine that makes you feel your best is important. So you normally do an hour-long workout in the morning. Now I'm going to do a 20-minute walk in the morning. That's a mini version of my routine. I normally have 3 liters of water a day. Okay, plan it out so that you have access to water in a bathroom throughout the day so that you can keep that as part of your routine. That's important to you. You normally have a big salad for lunch. Pack some vegetables so you can have vegetables with lunch. Keep those parts of your routine that are really important to you, because then coming back out of that trip, it becomes so much easier to get back to your routine. That's when we see people struggle a lot. They come off a 5-day vacation or a 10-day vacation, and then it takes them another 5 or 10 days to get back to their routine. And all of a sudden, this is a 20-day obstacle instead of just a 10-day obstacle.
I honestly think that's one of the most important tips, to be honest, like out of all of them.
Yeah. It's we sometimes I refer to this as just bounce back ability, and it's most people's success isn't determined by how much they fall off track. It's by how well they can bounce back from falling off track. If you can fall off track one day and bounce back the next day, that one day is almost never going to hold you back from your goals.
Definitely. Yeah. That's awesome.
I guess the last thing is just give yourself some breathing room and be realistic with your expectations. It's most of us aren't on a race to get to our destination, to get to our goals. Is it going to matter that much if it takes you 5 extra days to get there, right? So if you go on to that 5-day vacation with an all or nothing mindset and you say fuck it, and you go crazy, you haven't added 5 days to your journey. You've probably added 10 or 15 days to your journey. Right. But if you go into that with like I'm going to minimize the damage, I'm going to allow myself some wiggle room, but I'm going to keep things under control, then maybe you only added the 5 days to your journey. Are you going to care if it takes you 5 extra days to get there? Probably not. So give that some realistic thought when you make that decision. Is it realistic for me to keep pushing progress right now? We have some of our clients that through the summer, the goal is just maintenance, and that's fine. Right. Just have to be realistic about that. Over the next 2 months, I just want to maintain, because typically I would come out of a summer in a worse position. My goal is to not come out of the summer in a worse position so that I can keep progressing once September happens. That's awesome. That's totally realistic for some people, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to be realistic with your expectations.
Yeah. And in order to maintain, we still need to maintain some type of routine or
Totally.
Our habits, right? So we can't just forget about it.
Maintenance doesn't mean doing whatever I want for the next 2 months.
Exactly.
Maintenance means I can give myself a little bit more freedom, but I still have to be hitting goals. You still have to have some sort of plan in place in order to maintain.
Love it.
Cool. Okay, so for today's tip, we're gonna just talk about alcohol a little bit. When we talk about the calories in alcohol and the best and worst practices, a lot of people ask, should I go for the light beer? Should I go for the lighter drink? Should I be mixing with this or mixing with that? At the end of the day, the alcohol and the drink is going to be similar. What we mix it with, it needs to be treated separately. So the alcohol in itself isn't significantly different between a light drink and a full strength drink. It's how much sugar and how much mostly sugar is included in that drink. So when we have the ability to, mixing that drink with something 0 calorie, no brainer, is going to be a better choice from a calorie standpoint. It's still going to hit us from an alcohol standpoint. Our body has to navigate that alcohol in order to get back to efficient fat loss. So I don't want you making huge sacrifice and being like, oh, well, I'm having a light drink, I can have 3 of these because it's a third of the calories of that other drink. Other things are still happening here. You're still having 3 times as much alcohol. I don't want people to use that as a crutch. And I'm not saying that it's better to go have the full calorie drink. It's just those low calorie drinks often give people the mindset that they can have more, and it becomes a negative instead of a positive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
So control the variables we can. Often mixing your own drinks is your best option. But if not, don't get caught up in that mindset that a light drink is exponentially healthier, so I can have more of them. If you either way are going to have 3 drinks, then the light drink is going to be favorable for you. But if you're like having 5 light drinks versus 3 whole calorie drinks, I honestly don't think it's going to matter. I think you'd be better off probably having the 3 whole calorie drinks with less alcohol.
True. Awesome.
Yeah, that's it. If you guys have any questions about anything we covered today, make sure you shoot us a message so that we can chat. And wherever you're listening to this, comment, leave a review, give us some feedback, and make sure you share these episodes with your friends if you think they'll find it helpful too. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the episode.